There's this common saying that we grew up hearing, we being Caribbean folks, children, that we grew up hearing that simply states cockroach don't have no business in foul nest. It's pretty simple, pretty plain to the point, and it basically means that it's important to know your place in life. And I start off video by saying this because as we are celebrating, the win of Curacao and Haiti, qualifying for the World Cup, it's a beautiful thing. However, in the midst of that, we do have a serious issue in our region that needs to be addressed, that more voices should be warning our leaders, our nations about, which is the fact that our waters are heating up, especially the waters of Trinidad. As a Caribbean person, we tend to see ourselves as one, though every individual island has its expression of its culture and heritage, but we are all one. There was a statement made by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago that basically said that the notion that the Caribbean is a zone of peace is false, but that is false. And while I agree with what she stated, that we have as well issues of crime and violence in our respective islands, it doesn't mean that because of these negative instances and events that we should further invite violence, bloodshed, war to our doorstep, especially because we maintain the right as a region to affirm who we are. We maintain the right to establish ourselves and to seek, the ideals that make us who we are. We are a region of peace. We are a zone of peace. And yes, there have been rebellions. Yes, there have been revolutions even, and political violence and violence itself. But you find that all over the world. However, we master in inviting the world to rest and relaxation, yet we deny it for ourselves. We cannot afford, under no circumstance, to allow our region to be a hotbed for war and war crimes. It's unacceptable. When we look at the history of the Caribbean, we see where the Europeans came from across the Atlantic and they brought their wars, they brought their fights over into our Caribbean seas. Europe spent more time fighting each other than they have been united. Yet even they recognize that they had to put a stop to it. I mean, it even lasted into the last century, the 20th century, as recent as World War II. Yet we see where they recognize that they should come together and form the European Union because they stand better together than separate, despite recent calls for the disintegration of the UN by certain political parties in various European countries. But the people have sense. And for example, Britain, they are realizing that Brexit was not to their best interest. Nevertheless, in the Caribbean, here in our region, we cannot afford to adopt this divisive rhetoric that causes us to basically strain the relationships that we've formed over the years. CARICOM is not perfect. We have a long way to go when it comes to regional integration, but we maintain the right to seek and establish the ideal of unity and peace. It is very much possible. Cockroach has no business in foulness. All right? The reality is, as small nations, we can't afford to fully align ourselves with one superpower because, as history would have it, world powers always change. At one point in this very region, Spain dominated the islands. Even here on Saint Martin, which is a French and Dutch nation, the Spanish first conquered it, right? And they set up an embargo to block many their fellow European nations from coming here and pillaging the region. We had pirates and so forth. I mean, our history is rich, right? The point is, though, that when you look at Spain today, do they still dominate on the global stage? No, they don't. And it's important that we don't, while cockroach has no business in foulness, that we also don't limit ourselves and make it seem like we're insignificant, that we have no power and no say with the development of this region. One of our great Caribbean leaders once said, I'm going to paraphrase, I believe he, and I'm referring to Maurice Bishop, when he basically said, we're in no man's backyard. So with the decisions that have been taking place and the statements that have been made, particularly in Trinidad, it's so worrisome, because the truth will find you out. The truth will always come out, and the truth will be revealed, and I truly believe that. And it's important for our political leaders to understand that if they continue to adopt a mindset of pride, understand that pride comes before the fall, and the weight of prideful decisions will collapse and can collapse any government. This is specifically for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The bottom line is that it makes no sense, and it is unwise to tie yourself, your nation, and your people to another nation that has a history of abandoning those it makes promises to. So while, there may have been some offers, promises, concessions made to protect, Trinidad, if it further engages in supporting the United States efforts to destabilize Venezuela or to invade and go to war with Venezuela, understand the fact that history repeats itself, and a cockroach has no business in a foul nest. No, please get me right. I'm not saying Trinidad and Tobago is a cockroach. It's just a figure of speech. It's our, beautiful way of speaking to convey a message as we do in the region. This video is long enough, but I felt that I strongly had to state all that I state. And I truly pray for peace in our region. We deserve it. We need it. And there is still room to turn back, to repent and humble ourselves. Let us continue to pray and advocate for peace in the Caribbean. God bless you. Thank you for listening.